Thanks for joining us today for Difficult Conversations, the series of conversations that are sometimes really hard to talk about with your loved ones and your family and friends. And today we have a special guest, Suzie Deeds, Options Counselor from Northwest Senior and Disability Services. And she's going to talk to us today about all kinds of support services available and when is that time to need support. Thank you, Suzie, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Dodie, for the invite. I appreciate it. With Northwest Senior and Disability Services, I do several things, but the main thing I do is when older adults or people with disabilities contact us and they say, I just got this diagnosis, or a lot of people are further along, but sometimes it might be, I just got a Parkinson's diagnosis. I'm not at a place where I need support yet, but I want to start talking about it. Or sometimes it's family saying, I'm really worried about my mom. She was just diagnosed with dementia and she lives at home alone, or she's having a harder time getting around. So there's a variety of reasons that we might talk to someone about planning for their future. And I brought this today, and I love this little toolkit. And this is a really nice guide, and you can contact, if you want this, you can contact, and I'll leave one with you, Dodie, but it has the information on this statewide resource. Care Options Counseling or Options Counseling is actually a statewide resource. So anyone in the whole state of Oregon who's over 18 can contact their Aging and Disability Resource Connection, and they can say, look, I have these needs. This is what's going on with me. I'm interested in talking to an options counselor. Or sometimes it's not even someone who has needs, but maybe a couple will call and say, I just want to start planning for our future. We played with this idea of moving to independent living. And we're wondering, should we do that, or should we remodel our house? So people come to me for a lot of different reasons because they want to plan for their future. I usually see people who have too much money for Medicaid. They have too much money and resources. They don't feel like they're going to be eligible for help in the home through the state of Oregon through our Medicaid programs. But they want to know, what are my options as I plan for the future? And so what I do is, prior to COVID, it was wonderful. I got to sit with folks and come to their homes. But, since COVID, we do Zoom conversations, or we do on the phone, which, a lot of older adults feel more comfortable with. That works. I usually send them some information, and then we take some time to kind of talk about some different resources that some people aren't even aware that are out there. A lot of the questions people have for me have to do with, if I need help in the home down the road, what are my options? And I really encourage them, even if they're like, I'm doing okay, but I'm starting to have a little need. We have a program called Oregon Project Independence, is help in the home, no more than 15 to 20 hours. It doesn't look at resources to determine eligibility. It looks at the need of the older adult. So anytime, seniors are wanting to know about resources locally, they always want to call their Aging and Disability Resource Connection. And it might be, oh, Dodie talked about that Villages program. I wonder if I could get the phone number. Then they call the Aging and Disability Resource Connection, and they can get resources on whatever they can think of. It might be the home delivered meals that are out of here. Of course, you can probably call Dodie and she'd set you up with home delivered meals. It might be programs like Oregon Project Independence. Maybe you think, there's some people don't know that there's some folks that have lower resources or lower income, but high resources, and they're still eligible for their Medicare savings plan, which actually pays their Medicare premium each month. So, if your income is lower, you may want to call and see if there's programs that you could be eligible for. During COVID, it's hard sometimes not feeling alone or down. or a lot of my caregivers are feeling really anxious. And so that's where we have a wonderful free program for seniors over 60 who want to work on depression or anxiety with another peer. So we have volunteers who work with folks who maybe struggle with depression and anxiety on this workbook, and that's called Senior Peer Mentoring. And that's a wonderful program. I love that you guys have Silver Angel Foot Care here. I have recommended it to so many of my caregivers caring for their loved ones.
Yep.
And so if you're looking for those type of resources, whether they be resources within our agency or resources outside of our agency, that's the number you're going to want to call, the Aging and Disability Resource Connection, to learn more. The other thing that I do, so, you know, I work with folks who maybe say, I mean, I've gone out to many homes of people who, you know, I just got diagnosed with dementia. I want to plan for the future, or a stroke, or MS, Parkinson's, to, you know, children contacting me saying, you know, mom didn't do planning 5 years ago, and we're feeling that we need to look at her in-home options or care setting options. The thing with me, because I work for an area aging agency, I have to come from an unbiased. So, you know, we're coming from a place where we just give information and folks can do with it what, you know, what they choose to do. But the other piece I do, so not only do I do care options counseling to help people plan for the future who maybe either don't want to apply for a Medicaid program or know they have too much in resources for that, but I also work with family caregivers. So I have a caseload of individuals caring for loved ones over 60 or loved ones with dementia. And also, I also have some grandparents raising grandchildren over 55. As well as one more, Dodie, this is new since I probably talked to you.
Yeah.
If they're parents over 55 caring for an adult child in their home who has a disability. So you mentioned an example earlier when we were talking.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're over 55 and they're caring for an adult child, there's respite benefits through the family caregiver. There's counseling benefits.
Awesome.
There's a certain amount for durable medical supplies, incontinence supplies, things like that. And then we let them know about support groups. Now, not all caregivers want all of it. I mean, they're enrolled for 2 years in that program with all the benefits, but some come to me and say, you know, I don't really need the counseling. I just want the respite. I need a break. I need to, you know, hire some in-home care, or, you know, look at my respite options. And we talk to them about that and educate them. When we sit down, we let them know about support groups, if they want to attend our support groups or the Alzheimer's support groups. It's just great to, you know, know your resources. So many folks I know, their loved ones or themselves are veterans, but they've never contacted veterans to know what they're eligible for. You know, and that's one thing I like about Dodie, and I'll leave you this planning for your future. It has a little reminder, you know, about that. And this is a nice guide for folks who are just starting.
Yeah.
If they're more in depth, like, for example, if I have some of my family caregivers, I give this book, which I'm going to leave you.
Yes.
If they're caring for a loved one with dementia, this is a beautiful book that the state of Oregon just put out called Oregon Dementia Roadmaps.
Okay, very cool.
And caring for persons with Alzheimer's is another good one. That's another thing with the Family Caregiver Support Program. My job is to be support to my caregivers on my caseload.
Right.
And, you know, that's, there's 2 of us from Marion County. I serve North Marion County. 18 years I've been working for the agency, and I just, you know, enjoy North Marion County very much. We're really there as options counselors to help give folks ideas on planning for the future. We have a lot of information and material that we can share with families, caregivers, you know, wives caring for husbands, daughters caring for parents, that can just help them kind of navigate the system and know where to go to get support. Another one I think a lot of people know us for is SHIBA, the Medicare Counselors.
Yeah.
So especially for folks who either are just starting to get closer to the Medicare age, or they're wanting to sit down and maybe change their plan or look at different plans that would work better for them, that's where Medicare counselors are great. And those are volunteers that we always, we have, and they're so smart. I mean, I just admire our Medicare counselors so much. And that's another thing too, if you're, looking for volunteer opportunities, I'm sure Dodie has a lot here. Our agency has those, home delivered meal drivers, which Dodie knows a lot about. They have volunteers for senior peer mentoring program for anxiety or depression, working with counselors or older adults who struggle from that. We also have our advisory board that we're always looking for volunteers for Northwest Senior and Disability Services. Oh, the Oregon Money Management Program.
Oh, yes.
So that program is really neat, because if you're starting to, so for example's sake, your blindness is becoming worse, you're starting to become blind, maybe you've had a stroke on your dominant side and you can't manage your checkbook anymore. The Oregon Money Management Program is a wonderful program to look into. It's free. There's volunteers that work with those folks to help them with that money management piece. So that's also a really cool program.
Well, I have dealt with the peer counseling group back when Dr. Jeff Lukehart was running it.
Yes.
And that was quite a while. And I know there's been a lot of changes with the program. We have actually had, when someone's been assigned a new peer person, once in a while they'll come here to have their initial meetings, especially if it's a lady and a gentleman. Maybe they aren't comfortable meeting in someone's home, or right now they can't meet out in public.
Right.
So we've facilitated a few of those, which has been really nice.
I didn't know that, Dodie. That's awesome.
No,
really cool.
Yeah, a few people in the past, and they'll just call me and say, hey, I need to meet with this person. Do you have any room or space? And we try to make some privacy areas for them.
Yeah.
It's also with the other counseling groups you were talking about, I really support them. And I'm really hoping that we can get back to having our smaller groups here. And I do believe that support services are very important to folks. And I believe sometimes just that one-to-one contact, it's great to see people on Zoom and talk, but it's still a little different when it's in person.
Right. And the thing is, I think there's so many free resources that you can find through the Aging and Disability Resource Connection, or Dodie, you have knowledge of those free resources too, or even resources that we pay a little money for.
Yes.
That maybe help make our life easier. I'll give you guys an example of home delivered meals. And this is actually out of here. At my caregiver support group, when we were meeting in person at the hospital here in Silverton, one of the caregivers, he said, the best thing I did was I started getting home delivered meals. And he goes, it has just made such a difference. I don't have to shop as much. It's wonderful. And so it was really cool. A daughter who was caring for her mom, who'd been on hospice for about a year, said, oh, I want to try it. She got them, and she found out as a caregiver in her situation, I don't know her age, she was eligible for the home delivered meals too. She paid for them.
Nice. Yeah, right.
But she said, I don't have to go to the store as much. Some folks say it's not a fit for me. Then I say, well, what about other meal options? So, that's what we do, is we try to sit down with folks and think outside the box to really think, what is gonna help you age in your home ongoing? And if it's somebody who says, I do see people who say, I can't, maybe a caregiver, I can't do this anymore. I can't care for my loved one anymore.
Right.
We'll sit down and we'll have a conversation about care settings too, to let them know their options. That there are, assisted livings, adult foster homes, residential care facilities, memory care, nursing facilities. We, give them information so they can educate themselves. Some of my really savvy caregivers, I remember one, she had a huge packet she was carrying. She was younger, probably in her 60s. So a older adult in my book.
Yep.
And she was caring for her husband who was in his 80s. And she had already done all the research to determine if something happens to me, if I have a heart attack and have to go to the hospital for 3 days, this is the in-home agency I want called, or this is the memory care. She was, she even said, I need to go to Arizona for a week and it's worth it to me to take a vacation. And he went to a memory care for a week just to provide a respite.
Yep.
And because of his previous occupation, he had a blast because he thought he was helping everyone there.
That's awesome.
And was really, really enjoyed it. And then she was able to know, 6 months, a year later when she had to place him, that was a fit for him. We just try to help folks think outside the box when they're planning. And Dodie, can I mention with senior peer mentoring, because you mentioned, because I talk to seniors sometimes, they go, oh yeah, I used to be in the program when Jeff was a part of it. And it has changed. And what I'll say is, it is evidence-based. So these booklets that they work with you on around depression or anxiety are really evidence-based to help a person improve and feel better. And I know with COVID and these fires and all of this, the people I'm talking to, the older adults, the caregivers, the folks I'm talking to are saying, I'm more anxious right now, or I'm more depressed. I mean, sometimes we don't even recognize we're depressed. It's wonderful that they have those free programs out there.
Yeah. Well, I have to say we've been really fortunate to have somebody here talk about Sheba at least once a year, because that is a very big topic for people.
Yeah.
And that might be a good one to have as a not a difficult conversation, but as maybe a lunch with Dodie, or, some other format. I also wanted to let you know that we do have Cassandra coming from ADRC on Friday the 9th. So that'll be great to hear, the other side of all the services there.
Yeah.
I did have a question, Suzie. I have had a few ladies, generally ladies, and I see a trend in it becoming more of displaced caregivers who'd been at home taking care of somebody. Maybe they were family member, maybe they weren't, and they lived in home with the folks, the person, and then the person ages out, and then here you have this person caregiver who has nowhere to live or nowhere to go, and there's not a lot of resources out there for that.
And this is why it's so important to start planning today, whether you be her, the caregiver, or the person who has that person caring for them. So I'll give you an example. There's a woman who, she's on Social Security disability herself, but she's been caring for her mom for 18 years. And we had interaction with her, but I don't think she ever shared the fact that she was really concerned about her finances when her mom dies. Her mom's in her 90s now. She started to, share with me some things she'd never shared before, which was her income. And I was like, oh, but she goes, but I've been saving this money because I'm concerned what's going to happen. So I have money in savings. So I don't think I'm eligible. And I said, no, you are. You're actually eligible for that Medicare savings plan. That would save you over $100 a month that you can put in your savings. So it's really important for those folks to talk to someone now and start to gather information now, whether you be on either end. I mean, I think the other piece is, as older adults, if we have an unpaid family caregiver caring for us, we want to make sure that we've done everything we need to legally do. If we say, oh, I want you to have the house, or I want you to have this or that we've talked to an elder law attorney to have those things done. Both the caregiver and the person they're caring for are the caregiver is so stressed, they're doing the job of two people. And so I can understand why they don't reach out. And then sometimes the care receiver has got so much physically or cognitively, maybe they have dementia, it's the same. In regards to housing, Dodie, people need to get on housing 2 to 3 years prior.
I know.
So it's one of those things that the support is out there, but that's where it's so important to start having those conversations, free conversations with someone like myself or someone else to start planning.
I totally agree with that. And I don't believe we get enough, we don't take enough opportunities to do that. And that's why I started this series, to kind of force those topics out there. You know,
Right.
if that topic's out there, and even if you don't want to listen or learn about it, just by saying, oh, this topic is, you know, hard for me to even talk about, and I think it makes people think about it, an awareness, and they might start formulating some more ideas. And, you know, I'm all about proactive aging, you know, and making informed choices. And that's all I really want to do, is be able to provide that for folks so they can make better informed choices.
Yeah.
As
Yeah. And it's so important. And I'm going to tell you honestly, I'm pretty laid back, so I don't worry about much, but I've been wanting to work on my will and power of attorney and those things for a long time. Folks should be, and I haven't, but especially if we have a complicated situation, maybe we have a child with a disability in our home that we want to support as they get older, or we want to start planning because we're caring for a loved one in our home. It's really important to do baby steps because we get too overwhelmed too easily. But if we say, okay, in this 3 months, I'm going to work on this one thing. I'm going to make a call to an elder law attorney, or I'm going to talk to an options counselor, or I'm going to get my loved one on the wait list for Organ Project Independence, or just call the number and learn about your resources.
Exactly.
Someone comes to me for options counseling and they say, look, I'm a married person. We have $300,000 in the bank. Okay. And I say, well, you have two options. One, you could do a resource assessment with the state, with our office, but you may want to spend a little money and meet with an attorney who can actually give you some good advice, because a resource assessment through someone at our office is just going to be cut and dry. This is a state law. If they're starting to pay for care, they should either do a resource assessment if they don't have very much money, like if only 140,000, or get an elder law attorney. It's just important to educate yourself. And when you call these folks at the ADRC, the 503-304-3420, like Cassandra, they'll brainstorm with you to figure out what you might be eligible for.
I think that's the problem, is I believe as we are aging, we don't really know what all we're going to need.
Right.
So sometimes it's hard to ask the right questions.
But I want to tell you, that's what I rarely meet anyone who knows. I mean, they might know one or two questions to ask, but no, there's really not classes for this.
No, no.
There's really, and that's the goal of what we're trying to do with options counseling, is just try to get you thinking about things you can follow through with.
Yes. But that's the purpose of this also, just to create that awareness and give people the options and the availability to ask the right questions. So, well, great. This has been a really informative, great group today. Anything else you'd like to add, Suzie?
No, I just to say, I just think that's the most important thing that every senior should have, is that phone number, the 503-304-3420, for that age and disability resource connection. Because sometimes it might be like today, you might be calling it just to ask about options counseling. In 6 months, it might be, I have a neighbor and I'm really worried about her. I don't think she should be driving. She asked me about transportation. What are my transportation options? It's a number we can go back to all the time to learn about resources. They also have a really cool website. You can put in the zip code, and then you can put in like housing or zip code and transportation.
Yeah.
And anything you want. I mean, it has, I'm certain it has you guys in it, Dodie.
Yeah, I'll check it out. It's just nice to know all these resources are out there. We just have to know where to find them.
Right. The only thing that's not going to be in our database, if, so for example, like if I start a business 2 weeks ago and I go to the ADRC and I go, put me in your database, they're going to say, no, you have to meet certain criteria to be in that database, because that is a statewide resource.
Yes, it is. Well, everybody, if that's all for today, then I'd like to say have a great afternoon.